Hello, welcome back to Kiai Gaming. My name is Alex. Today I'm going to take a look at an expansion-based Test of Honor Warband. So this is the warband that I made for the Test of Honor bootcamp at Warlord Games in Nottingham a couple of weeks ago. Because of the way the day was structured, I didn't actually get to play this warband in its complete form. The day was meant more for kind of starter warbands, like core set warbands, whereas obviously I went for a lot of expansion cards. But when I did get to play this warband, then it worked quite well. Although I never got to play it like this in complete form. But because the day was an escalating points event, when I did manage to get more and more models from the warband, into my warband that I could actually play in any given game, then it worked well. So I thought I'd share it with you today and show you what I came up with. So the miniatures that I went for are from the Pauper Soldiers set, the Masked Men set, and also a couple of core set miniatures as well. Okay, so first let's take a look at the samurai hero, Senzo the Thorn. This guy's actually the only samurai in the entire warband. Everyone else is commoners. So Senzo has his ability that says that before each battle he gets the one with the target skill card automatically, and he's also armed with a bow, which made things a little bit awkward at some points of the boot camp, but it was fine. So he gets one with the target, so he can move 5 inches when making a shoot action instead of the usual 3, which is handy. Although he does get 1 less point of damage compared to other heroes, but that's fine. I was actually completely fine with that. During the course of the day, he also got a couple of other skill cards because it was a campaign kind of day. So he got Salute Your Enemy, which is the salute card and the card you get for spending X amount of money at the Warlord Games store. But I thought I'd throw it into my skill deck because it's a fun card, and I did actually get to use it and bow to my opponent, and the effects happened and blah blah blah. So he picked up Salute Your Enemy, and he also picked up Perfect Aim as well. When making a shooting action, he can ignore one thing impeding the shot, which came in handy a couple of times. So yeah, Senzo was a fun choice, a fun miniature to paint as well. I'll show you some of the miniatures later on actually. Yeah, it was a good choice for a samurai hero. It did look kind of weird actually when, especially in game 2, against Neil Shuck, who you might know from the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. When we played our game, at the end it was a draw, and we had to play a samurai duel to decide the winner. And it's kind of weird where he had a samurai who was standing up and with a sword and everything, and I had a samurai who was basically crouching down with a bow and arrow, looking as if I was trying to shoot his stomach or something. It was weird, but it was fine for gameplay purposes. It was fine, even though it looked a bit weird on the table. Okay, so this is the archery side of things, apart from Senzo, of course, in the warband. Here we've got a Sergeant of Archery. We've got some Pauper Archers as well from the Pauper Soldiers set. Obviously, the Sergeant of Archery works well with the Archers because he gives them +1 die to their strike roll, which is already 4 if there's 2 or 3 of them left in the group. So even if there's only 1 of them left, he still gets 4 dice on the strike roll. And with the Sergeant of Archery nearby, then they get 5 dice on the strike roll. 3 + 1, which is 4, and then he gives them the extra one, which is 5. So yeah, this worked quite well as well. They were able to aim at specific parts of the table. Kind of create, I wouldn't say kill zones because that sounds a bit too much for Test of Honor, but that's what essentially they were. Like step into this area and my archers will open fire and shoot on whatever's in there. So yeah, the archery package worked quite well. Sergeant of Archery, as I said, has great synergy with the Pauper Archers, and yeah, overall it was good times. One other thing to mention about the Pauper Archers is that they get 4 dice for their avoid roll instead of 3 dice, like a standard bowman group would get, which came in handy when they tried to avoid, and they were kind of met up close by another group, another an enemy figure. And that also works really well with the banner bearer as well, as you'll see later, because the banner bearer gives them the additional dice as well. So sometimes they got 5 dice on their avoid roll, which is samurai hero level. So that worked quite well too. Okay, next we have the Masked Men groups from the Masked Men set. These guys are armed with Naginata. They have 4 dice on their damage stat, which instead of the usual 3 dice, which is really good. Although they do make up for it by having average wits and honor stats. So as I said earlier, the every expansion group has a 4 dice stat somewhere on their stat line. The Pauper Archers have it on their agility. These guys have it on their damage. Okay, and to round out the warband, we have some experienced spearmen and the man, the myth, the meme, the banner bearer. The experienced spearmen are in there because, you know, I wanted a little bit more of a kind of a melee element instead of having, you know, a bunch of archers, because my samurai hero is an archer. I've got Pauper Archers in there as well. I've got the masked men who are melee, but I wanted, you know, a little bit more melee instead of going for more archers. So I decided to go with experienced spearmen. They also have the wits roll of 4, which is good in case I needed to, you know, in case there was a mission where I had to search for something, then I could, you know, I could use these guys with their increased wits roll. And also the banner bearer is really good in this warband because it says if the banner bearer is within 6 inches when a friendly commoner attempts to avoid an attack, add +1 die to the roll. Everything in this warband is commoners except for Senzo, the samurai hero. So put this guy within, you know, put this guy in a good place, you know, covering, you know, within 6 inches of, you know, a certain amount of miniatures, and they all get +1 dice to their avoid. They're all, you know, quite hard to hit. Okay, and finally, let's show you some painted miniatures. Now, I should say that these miniatures aren't actually finished. They may look finished, but they're not actually, to me, they're not actually finished. Basically, I painted the entire warband in less than a week because I wanted to get them. I wanted to get the miniatures, you know, up to some sort of painted standard that I could use, you know, on the day of the boot camp. But you know, even though they may look finished, they're not actually finished. There are a couple of more things that I want to do with these miniatures. But yeah, this is Senzo the Thorn, my samurai hero. The paint scheme for this, for the whole warband, was inspired by, and indeed the entire clan, like kind of idea, was inspired by a piece of art by Jed Henry from Ukiyo-e Heroes. Basically, Ukiyo-e Heroes is a company that makes traditional Japanese woodblock prints featuring video game characters. So I saw a print that featured Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid, and I thought, yep, that's it. That's going to be the theme of my warband. So the actual clan, it's a custom clan, obviously. The clan's called Kataihebi, which, as far as I can tell, means Solid Snake in Japanese. And yeah, that's the theme that I went with for the warband. So they're meant to be a kind of a sneaky, shadowy kind of warband, you know, almost ninjas, but not quite ninjas. They're still, you know, commoners and samurai. They're not quite ninjas, but they're supposed to be really sneaky and shadowy kind of clan. Okay, next I have a masked man, armed with a naginata. The way I made the naginata, actually, because you don't actually get that many of them in Test of Honor generally, and you don't get any in the masked men box set. You get the standard spears. So what I simply did was I took a normal spear, normal yari, I cut it down a bit, which was handy for transportation issues as well, because it's really hard to transport some of those spears. Yeah, I cut it down, and then I took one of the katana blades from the samurai box, from the samurai warband box that I've got, and basically cut the blade off the katanas and stuck it onto the yari, onto the top of the yari. I didn't make this up. This has kind of become kind of a standard thing for anyone who wants naginata in Test of Honor. And yeah, that's how I made the yari, kind of a kit bashed. I mean, not the yari, the naginata. It's a kit bashed naginata. So yeah, that's the masked man. Next, we have a pauper soldier from the Pauper Soldiers set. This guy wasn't too much of a hassle to put together and paint, although the metal heads are kind of fiddly. They do kind of, you know, need a bit of extra attention when putting them on. I didn't pin them. A lot of people actually pin the heads on the models. I didn't pin them. I didn't have time to pin them. But yeah, it worked out quite well, and you know, painted up reasonably well. And finally, we have this guy. Now, this guy is kind of a dual model because this is actually the banner bearer. Basically, the idea I was going for with this guy is that because this is supposed to be a shadowy, secretive kind of clan, why would they have a guy with a huge banner, huge Nabori banner, you know, flapping in the breeze, when they're meant to be, you know, secret and kind of, you know, they're supposed to be, you know, sneaky. So they wouldn't have a guy with a great big banner. So instead, I went with this guy as a banner bearer. He's got a banner on his back. He is bearing a banner. And also, if I want to use a sergeant in the warband, then I can use this figure as a sergeant figure. Obviously, if I want to use a sergeant and a banner bearer, I'd have to, use another figure, an additional figure. But I thought, if they're going to be, if they're going to be all sneaky, then make the banner bearer, fit that theme. So I went with this. Okay, so that was the warband that I took to the boot camp in Nottingham. This is a warband that I would definitely play again in a different event, like a tournament, a campaign event, whatever kind of Test of Honor event. I'll definitely play these guys again. I'm happy with how the clan's progressing, and yeah, it's a fun warband to play. Okay, so if you enjoy the content on this channel, then please be sure to subscribe to help to support the channel and to help it grow. And also, do the usual YouTubey things. Leave a like, leave a comment. I read all the comments and try to respond to as many as I can, which ideally is all of them. So, be sure to leave a comment as well. And yeah, all the normal YouTubey things that help channels to grow and help me to interact with you guys. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and until next time, see ya!